It's called the American Dream. Go to school, work hard, be a good citizen, and you too can succeed. But is that really the case? And who does the dream belong to? Does it include non-citizens like the dreamers? Two acclaimed scholars, one an immigrant himself, are here to discuss all that and more. Chapman University President Daniele Struppa and UC Irvine Emeritus Vice Chancellor Manuel Gomez. They're next on Inside OC. Inside OC is brought to you by...
Each new community 5 Point brings to life represents a promise delivered. Great neighborhoods are more than just places to live, they are places to connect. 5 Point is a proud sponsor of public television and community programming.
Chapman University is a proud sponsor of Inside OC and community programming.
All your life, people talk about what's best for you. But to most people, it's just that. Talk. Unless you're with MemorialCare, a healthcare system devoted to one important thing: what's best for you.
Hi, I'm Reiff, and I'm here with Drs. Daniele Struppa and Manuel Gomez. And on our first episode, we talked about free speech. We're now going to talk about another hot issue or issues, which is the status of the American dream and immigration. And Dr. Gomez, you are the poet. Dr. Struppa is the mathematician. So let's, rather leading off with a mathematical formula, let's lead off with a little of your poetry. I guess this is one of the first poems you wrote. It's called The Beginning, and I think it speaks to some of the things we'll be discussing. Please read it or recite it for us.
Thank you. The beginning. The red sun's sword slashes my soul. Black blood flows from my darkness. I am the son of an ancient people. I cry tears of blood and fire. During the day, I hunt. And at night, I carry mountains on my back.
I'm so struck by that, and I am the son of an ancient people, I think, kind of strikes at what we're going to be talking about. The American dream, immigration, being from somewhere else, but being part of this society. So, Dr. Struppa, let's hear your story, because you are an immigrant, and I've heard you discuss this before. I want to hear it again. Tell us your experience in America.
Well, I've been here now, 20 plus years. I came the first time in '78 as a student, and I have to say this country has treated me like no other country in the world would have. I was given free education as a graduate student. Well, you know, they have you teach in exchange for free education, but it's a very small price to pay. And then when I came back, I became a professor, and then a chairman of the department, a dean, a provost, and now president. There are very few countries in the world where somebody like me with an accent could actually be the president of a prestigious university like Chapman University. Even my kids sometimes don't understand what I say. And yet this country has opened to me their doors in ways that I find absolutely stunning.
You were already accomplished. I mean, you graduated with a math degree from the University of Milan. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you could have had a great career there, right? Why did you leave Italy?
Well, actually, after my PhD, I did go back to Italy, and I became a professor, and then I became the chairman of my department. So you're right, I had a very good career there. But I think I was longing for this country. My experience at the University of Maryland had been so good that I wanted to be back. And I think some of the things that I really like about this country was actually the sense of freedom that I was experiencing, the sense of a much lower hierarchical nature of academia. In Italy, academia is very hierarchical, and even though I was at the top, I was the chairman of the department, I was a full professor, I didn't like to see the way in which junior faculty were treated or students were treated. And I'd experienced...
I could crack a joke here about, you mean it's worse in Italy than it
Way
is
worse.
here in academia?
No, and actually I'm glad that you said this, because when I talk to my students who are very critical of this country, I always tell them, the United States is not a perfect country. There is no such thing. But before you're that critical, you should travel and see the rest of the world. And then you would come back with a new, refreshed sense. So maybe because I'm a new American, and so I'm particularly proud of this country, and I love this country so strongly, but I think that sometimes we are being hypercritical. Can we progress? Of course we can. Can we improve things? Of course we can. And there are problems, there are significant problems. And you mentioned the American dream. I'm an example of the American dream, but I also recognize it's getting difficult for people to go through the same path that I went through. So I'm not assuming here the country is a perfect country, but if we compare with many other places in the world, the sense of freedom that people can experience here, and on which we talked about when we spoke about free speech, is not the same elsewhere. Italy doesn't have, for example, such a all-encompassing free speech principle. There are topics that cannot be talked about. There are jokes that cannot be made. So I think, to me, it's a very special place, and that's why I'm such a big supporter.
Okay, Dr. Gomez, what's your experience? You're the son of an ancient people. Tell us your sense of the American dream.
Well, thank you for that reference to the son of an ancient people, because it reminds me of something that's important to say before I share my story, and that is that amnesia and denial are an essential part of the American dream, unfortunately, in our country's history. And that is, it's been a nightmare for the native peoples, the Tangva, the Ashaman of this area. We can't really right that wrong because we can't bring back the dead, but we can begin to tell the truth about what really happened and stop hiding it and burying it. My story, my grandfather came across the border in 1910 during the Mexican Revolution, bought a farm in Santa Ana, adjoining the Willowick Golf Course. He had an incredible, beautiful farm of every fruit imaginable. And Vicente Nores, his daughter, my mother, married my father, who was from Colorado. His lineage goes back to the 1840s. And they had 8 children, 4 brothers and 4 sisters. 4 of us were born in Colorado, 4 of us were born in California. And the California gang always topped the Colorado gang. But I'm also very grateful to C&H, California and Hawaii Sugar replaced and destroyed the sugar beet industry in Colorado where we were working, and forced my parents to come and live permanently in California. And we lived in my grandfather's house for a while, which has been turned into Campesino Park, by the way, which I really like. And then my father bought a home. He bought a home through a friend, a white friend, because he was not unable to buy the house himself directly as a Mexican American. And I was the first to graduate from high school in my entire family as a male. Went to college, the first to go to college, and pursued a degree in PhD at USC, became Vice Chancellor at the University of California, Irvine, married, have 2 children, a daughter and a son, no dogs, no cats, a home. And so in so many ways, I feel I am the epitome of the American dream.
And yet you said you gave that cautionary note there.
Yes, well, the cautionary note is because the dream has not been as inclusive as it should be. The moral foundations of our country were laid down by the founders in our Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And among those freedoms are we are all born equal. We are all born with inalienable rights given to us by our Creator, not the government. And we all provide the powers to the government by the consent of the people. So those are the principles of an inclusive dream. Even though they didn't mention the American dream in the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution, they did say we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. No more beautiful words have ever been written on any constitution of any nation that I've ever seen.
Dr. Struppa, I think to that point, I think a lot of the discussion, or a lot of the debate and a lot of the conflict going on right now is between those who feel that we are continuing to progress and improve this country, and more people are able to achieve the dream, and those that say just the opposite, that it's we're actually regressing, or that we've never progressed, and that the American dream is a mirage. How do you feel about those?
No, I
conflicts?
personally think that while it may be becoming more difficult because America doesn't have the open frontier that it used to have, it doesn't have the growth ahead of it that it used to have at the beginning, say, of the turn of last century. But I think that the progress is undeniable. The society is more free than it's ever been before. Rights of underprivileged minorities have been recognized and supported. So, as I said, I think in my very first comment, while definitely this is not the perfect place and there is a lot of work to be done, but it's also true that the progress is there for people to see. So
Dr. Gomez, do you think we're making progress?
Well, I think that there's no doubt that there's been progress over time, and in fact, the dream was first coined in 1931. The American dream was first coined in 1931 in a book called The American Epic by James Trislow Adams. And he, by the way, attributed the dream not to just one individual, but he said the dream has been built by all of the people of all of the nations that have come to this country. So he too, when it was first coined, viewed the American dream as a immigrant dream and largely an individual economic dream for opportunity and for achievement according to ability. Those were more or less his words. Now, the biggest challenge we have to the American dream, besides the immigration questions that are being discussed today, is the growing economic inequality. It is massively growing and providing less opportunity for the younger generations to also achieve the economic dimensions of the American dream. I could cite information regarding the inequality, but I think we're all aware that the lower ability of income groups to be able to have a sustainable life, to have a home, to have a job that gives them a living wage is becoming more and more difficult. And that's stressing the American dream, but it's still, even by those individuals and those people, striving to achieve that same dream.
Yeah, Doctor, how do you see that? Do you see, Dr. Struppa, the income inequality as being a serious problem and are we almost becoming a bifurcated society where for some people the American dream is highly achievable and for others it's almost hopeless?
Well, I wouldn't be as negative saying it's hopeless, but I agree completely with my friend that income inequality has become an issue and is bifurcating society. There is no doubt. I mean, the data speak for themselves. So that is something that we need to worry about. I don't think, quite honestly, that either one of the two parties has a clear idea of what to do. I think the policies that have been enacted in different parts of the country demonstrate that nobody really has a grip on how to turn that around. To support the notion that the American dream is alive, though, is the issue of immigration. Look how many people, despite the problems that America has, which are known and well public, still fight to get into the country. I think that there is still something very powerful that attracts people here. And in fact, these people essentially vote with their feet. When they come here, is because despite the issues, despite the complexity, despite the prospects, what they find here is better than what they left.
Okay, so people want to get in. Of course, the other side of the equation is the people who are already here. And there are many people already here who, in recent years, this is a phenomenon not just in the United States, but across the globe, that people are concerned about new immigrants. And so let's turn to that topic. Let's take a quick look, though, at some numbers here. And so this is pretty straightforward. This is the number of U.S. immigrants in the country. These are Pew Center estimates. 45 million. 14% of the U.S. population are immigrants. About 3/4 of those, 34 million, are lawful. 20 million naturalized citizens, such as yourself, Dr. Struppa. Then you've got 12 million lawful permanent, typically green card holders, 2 million temporary, which are typically like work visas or student visas, and the dreamers are in that group as well, the so-called DACA dreamers, a little under 1 million. And then 1 million, or not 1 million, 11 million unauthorized, also sometimes called illegal immigrants, and that's about 11 million, 2.5 million in California.
I'd like to share some numbers as well with regard to the profile of immigrants in Orange County. I serve on the Board of Governors for the Orange County Community Foundation, and they have launched the program called Opportunity Initiative, issued a report profiling the immigrants in Orange County. And you mentioned 14.1% in the nation. In California, it's 28.2% foreign-born residents or citizens. And in Orange County, it's higher. It's 31.5%.
Just about a third.
And who our total population is foreign-born, yes. And 980,532, or 50.9%, are naturalized citizens, and 466,000 are foreign-born non-citizens in Orange County. But what's really important is that the immigrant population in Orange County is punching way above its weight in terms of the contributions. They're making $2.2 billion annually in state and local income taxes, $5.9 billion annually in total income taxes, and far more importantly, the 40.9% of the businesses, small businesses in Orange County, are owned by foreign-born residents or citizens.
Yeah. Of course, as you know, Doctor, those numbers, and there's people on the other side who have their numbers, and it seems though it's so much of an emotional issue. And that, you know, in California generally, I mean, the polling has shown that Californians are very receptive. A large majority favor legal status and a path to citizenship for non-citizens, but then you get into the fine details. They don't want criminals to be able to stay. They want people to have some means to be employed, and you know, and so when you start getting into those things, you start to see some breakage. Dr. Struppa, you know, what's your take on the whole immigration thing? Are we becoming more or less receptive to immigration? Is that good or bad?
Well, first of all, let me say that the numbers that we just heard actually demonstrate how alive the American dream is. The fact that such a huge percentage of small businesses are owned by recent immigrants, that's a demonstration that these people come here with a very strong desire to work and to insert themselves in the core of society and taking advantage of one of the great things of America, which is the ability of build your own future. The entrepreneurship is really one of the great power that this country has always had. So when I hear those numbers, my faith and optimism actually rebound. Now, in terms of, you know, immigration, as you say, I think the fundamental issue is that we have a broken immigration system. It's a system that every so many years has to be, creates a problem that requires heavy intervention, whether it's in the form of an amnesty or bills. And frankly, the Congress is responsible, in my view, for all of this. I think it's very disappointing that the Congress, under different presidents, with different majorities, have not been able to put together a package that is satisfactory for a country like the United States. Obviously I'm an immigrant, so I'm strongly supportive of immigration. I think immigrants bring something that is fundamental in the ethos of this country, which is the can-do attitude. If you leave your country, where you have your parents, your friends, the people you grew up with, and you embark in a dangerous, perilous trip where you don't know where you're going to exactly end up just because you want to do something better for yourself, obviously you have the characteristic that we want in our citizens. So to me, they're passing the citizenship test by the demonstration of what they're willing to do to come here. Sometimes more than people who have been lucky enough to already be here. Yeah. So the question is, how do we do this in a way that is reasonable and that allows us to absorb immigration in a way that is not disruptive? We were talking before the sector. Europe is undergoing very similar situations, and the issue is we don't have reasonable policies.
let's address the political reality in this country right now. And Dr. Gomez, as you know, California has been described as the leader of the resistance movement to Donald Trump, and not just fighting some of his immigration policies, but declaring throughout the state sanctuary cities and that kind of thing. And now a brouhaha over the mayor of Oakland actually tipping off people that, hey, we think ICE is coming in here, you know, hide in the basement or whatever. What do you make of all that? And should California take that kind of a stance?
I think it should, and it has, and I'm very proud to be a member of the sanctuary state of California. Recently, a few days ago, there was an article in the LA Times regarding an 1850 similar reality. Many of you may not know, but in 1850, the Congress passed a law forcing all states and residents to help in the securing of escaped slaves. Vermont, Michigan, Massachusetts, Wisconsin, a number of other 8 states passed the laws to resist that. And today, we have people that are working and part of our communities. We know them. They cut our grass. They're in the kitchens. They're in the restaurants. They work with us, and every day. They've been here over 20 years, most of them, and particularly here in Orange County. And to allow the disaggregation and the division of our communities, I think, is really a disaster in the making. And the last thing I want to say is this thing about Trump and equating immigrants to a snake is not only poisoning the current immigrants, but poisoning the entire well of this nation's base of immigrants. And Daniele, I liked what he said about the fact that it is a broken system and we need a more regulated system to be able to more naturally absorb waves of immigrants and refugees. But we don't seem to have that because of the different attitudes towards these new waves of immigrants that are different. But in all of the history of this country, every single immigrant wave was put down, was discriminated against, was said that they're going to destroy the American body politic. And every single group has contributed over a long period to the strength of this country.
Well, let me ask you to that point, though. Is there, and now, though, what you hear is that all these other groups assimilated, and they wanted to assimilate, and in fact, parents didn't teach the native tongue to their kids because they wanted them to speak English. Is that changing? Is there now more of an attitude? We are a unique. We have a unique identity. We want to keep it. And
I think there may be some of that, but not really. I mean, if you look at the Mexican community, the Central American community here, you see a very large degree of assimilation. There is a stronger interest in maintaining cultural origin, which I think is good, because it brings added richness to the country. You know, in other words, it's a more perfect fusion if people bring and maintain the pride and the love for what they left. It adds to the entire synergy. But the number he was saying, when he mentioned that 40.9% of the small businesses are owned by recent immigrants, that's a number that tells a huge story. People say, well, they don't integrate. Well, they obviously do integrate because they're actually doing what this country does best. They're building innovation. They're finding ways for families to work together. And, some of these businesses, I'm sure, are small family-owned businesses. So I think that's part of the rhetoric that sometimes we hear that is connected with what Manuel was saying, that every new wave, there is kind of a instinctive reaction that, no, these are the ones that are going to ruin the country once and for all. I have to be honest. I mean, I'm biased maybe because being an immigrant myself, but I really don't see that as a problem.
Well, and not only small businesses, which is the majority of it, but I can tell you from the Orange County Business Journal, some of the biggest companies in Orange County were started or are run by immigrants.
The only thing I like to propose the state of California, if we decide that we don't want to cooperate with ICE, why don't we also decide that we don't cooperate with IRS? That would make me happy. That would be if we become a sanctuary city, a sanctuary state for the IRS,
but you just got a big tax break.
Oh, not me. We are in California.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, and thanks to our great studio audience as well. That's it for now. And thanks again to Drs. Daniele, Struppa, and Manuel Gomez, not just for this show, but for our prior show on free speech. And if you haven't seen that one, please check it out on YouTube. And you can watch this show and past shows by going to pbssocal.org or rickreiff.com. You can also catch our shows and our post-show open mic chatter on YouTube. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again on Inside OC. Inside OC is brought to you by
Each new community 5 Point brings to life represents a promise delivered. Great neighborhoods are more than just places to live, they are places to connect. 5 Point is a proud sponsor of public television and community programming.
All your life, people talk about what's best for you. But to most people, it's just that. Talk. Unless you're with MemorialCare, a healthcare system devoted to one important thing: what's best for you.
Chapman University is a proud sponsor of Inside OC and community programming.